Coming up today, President Park Geun-hye has accepted a proposal to hold talks with the leader of the main opposition party, raising hope the two sides can calm the political crisis caused by the power abuse scandal involving the president's confidant. With prosecutors expected to question President Park sometime this week, they quizzed two of her closest and longest-serving aides as the prosecution expands its investigation into the scandal that has rocked the nation. First, South Korea and the United States discuss ways to raise awareness of the human rights abuses in North Korea. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Monday, the 14th of November. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon, President Park Geun-hye has accepted a proposal to hold one-on-one talks with the leader of Korea's main opposition party. The presidential office said the president and Choo Mi-ae will meet on Tuesday, but the details of the meeting are still being worked out. It's hoped the meeting could help soothe the massive political crisis sparked by the abuse of power scandal involving the president's close confidant. President Park last week paid a surprise visit to the National Assembly to meet the Speaker, where she agreed to let lawmakers select the next Prime Minister and vowed to transfer most of her governing power to the new PM. It's thought President Park will try to seek the opposition party's cooperation as much as possible, as the scandal has paralysed almost all government activity. Choo has been calling on the president to resign, voicing public anger over the scandal, which reached a head on Saturday with a massive demonstration in Seoul. So now that the presidential office has accepted the main opposition party's leader's proposal for one-on-one talks, many expect them to be aimed at finding a solution to the crisis centering around President Park's confidant, Choi Soon-sil. For more, we have our Ji Myung-gil on the line. So, Myung-gil, give us the details.
Mark, President Park Geun-hye and main opposition Democratic Party leader Choo Mi-ae will meet on Tuesday. Choo had said it was time for she and the president to speak about finding solutions to the ongoing paralysis in state affairs. However, it is uncertain whether Choo will ask the president to resign. In the meantime, Choo's allies have reacted. The minor opposition People's Party, which had criticized her for making the announcement without consulting the other opposition parties, said the only solution was for the president to resign. The left-wing Justice Party said it cannot understand Choo's motives and gave the president a deadline of November 26th to step down. Across the political aisle, the ruling tentative party's pro-pact and non-pro-pact factions are seeking separate solutions to the crisis. The pro-pact wing, including party leader Lee Jong-yeon, has vowed to take steps to overcome the current crisis. Buffalo leader Chung Jin-seok, who has distanced himself from Lee, held a separate meeting with the non-pro-pact wing and urged the opposition parties to unify their stance so that the parliament can start negotiations. Mark?
Okay, Myung-gil, thank you very much for that report. Now, staying with this scandal and the investigation into it, Korea's state prosecutors are expected to question President Park Geun-hye sometime this week over her role in the influence peddling and corruption scandal that has completely shaken the nation. Ahead of that, prosecutors are busy gathering evidence and testimony from some of her closest aides. Kim Ji-yeon with the details.
Prosecutors are working to gather testimony from key witnesses before calling President Park Geun-hye in for questioning sometime this week. President Park's General Affairs Secretary Lee Jae-man and Public Relations Planning Aide An Bong-geun arrived at the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office Monday morning after being summoned as witnesses. Lee was in charge of handling all documents in the top office, while An is suspected of lenting his vehicle to Choi Soon-sil while he was serving as President Park's Public Relations Secretary. The prosecution earlier booked the president's personal secretary, Chung Ho-sung, who is suspected of handling classified documents to Choi Soon-sil, President Park's longtime confidant, who is at the center of the scandal. The prosecutor's summons is seen as a prelude to the inquiry into President Park, who is also expected to be called as a witness. In response, the presidential office said it will need some time, at least until Wednesday, to review some of the details, rearrange the president's schedule, and appoint a lawyer for the president. There are no details yet on where or how the inquiry would take place, but the prosecution is said to be seeking an in-person meeting near the presidential office of Cheongwade. If realized, it will be the first time in Korean history that a sitting president is questioned by prosecutors. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, in other news, South Korea and the United States have been holding talks in Seoul on North Korea's human rights situation and discussing ways to raise international awareness on the issue. South Korea's Director General of the Korean Peninsula Peace Regime Bureau, Kim Young-hyun, and U.S. Special Envoy for North Korean human rights issues Robert King met for the second consultative meeting on North Korea's human rights. They discussed efforts to stop human rights violations, publicize the problem, and how to expand the North Korean people's access to outside information. The talks come amid a draft UN General Assembly resolution that calls for the issue to be referred to the International Criminal Court. The most recent proposal for the first time includes North Korea's forced overseas labor conditions. South Korea and Japan are set to tentatively sign an intelligence sharing pact in Tokyo today. An official at Seoul's Defense Ministry says the two countries will hold their third working level talks for the signing. This comes just 18 days after the South Korean government said it was resuming talks, despite growing criticism that it failed to garner enough public support. The ministry official says the agreement is necessary to counter North Korea's growing nuclear and missile threats. If signed, Seoul plans to strike the deal by the end of this month. The talks were halted 4 years ago after a public backlash here in Korea. U.S. presidential-elect Donald Trump has tapped Republican National Committee Chairman Reince Priebus as his new chief of staff. Trump has also made some follow-up remarks on his previous statements on nuclear proliferation and immigration issues. Kim Mok-yeon has more.
Last week, Reince Priebus was reportedly running neck and neck with Trump's campaign CEO Steve Bannon for the position of chief of staff. But Trump's team has announced that Bannon, who is also executive chairman of Breitbart News, will instead serve as a chief strategist and senior counselor to the president. Watchers say the appointment of Priebus to chief of staff suggests Trump is interested in a more conventional approach to governing. President-elect Trump said he was thrilled to have a very successful team and added that both men are highly qualified leaders who will help him make America great again. Earlier in the day, Trump denied previous statements where he said more countries should acquire nuclear weapons. He took to Twitter on Sunday stating that the New York Times will lose thousands of subscribers because of its poor and inaccurate coverage of the Trump phenomena. His remarks come as the newspaper published an article about Trump's statements on foreign policy made in March, including suggestions to allow South Korea and Japan to develop their own nuclear weapons for self-defense in order to lessen U.S. security burdens. Regarding the immigrant issue, Trump said that he plans to immediately deport up to 3 million undocumented immigrants who have criminal records after his inauguration in January. In an interview with CBS, the president-elect said that once the criminal immigrants are out of America and the border is secured, his administration will begin to deal with other undocumented immigrants whom he referred to as terrific people. Kim Mok-yeon, Arirang News.
A new stock market for startup businesses in Korea is now up and running. Korea Exchange opened the over-the-counter market earlier on this Monday. It's called KRX Startup Market, or KSM, and it's aimed at helping firms raise funds easily and putting their shares on the market for investors to buy and sell. In order to trade on the market, startups are required to raise funds through crowdfunding programs online or hold recommendations from state-run financial organizations like the Korea Development Bank. Global trade has contracted to its lowest level in 6 years due to falling raw materials prices and low growth woes pretty much around the world. Recent data from the World Trade Organization shows the trade volume of 71 major economies in the first 8 months of this year came in at around $19.3 trillion US. That's down more than 4.5% from the same period a year ago. Last year's figure represented an almost 12% drop, and together that makes for nearly 2 straight years of decline. South Korea, which is heavily reliant on outbound shipments, exports, is sitting at 8th in terms of export volume. The number of job seekers in Korea hit an all-time high in October, adding to the nation's already high unemployment rate. According to Statistics Korea, the number of people preparing to find work totaled 653,000 last month. That is up 16,000 on year. The latest figure is the highest since record-keeping began in 2003 in relation to this, and it includes would-be job seekers who are not yet actively looking for work. According to the Statistical Office, such individuals who either study alone or are enrolled in academies are currently classified as part of the economically inactive population but are considered jobless. There was a notable increase in the number of people in their 30s in the group, which shows that people are taking longer to prepare for jobs in the worsening job market. Overall, the unemployment rate in Korea reached 3.4%, and that is the highest for the month of October since the year 2005. A new event organised by the World Economic Forum has kicked off in Dubai. Some of the world's leading minds have gathered to consider various global issues, including risks posed by new technologies. Our Kwon Jang-oh takes us to the annual meeting of Global Future Councils.
It's been a year since the international think tank, the World Economic Forum, announced its new central theme, or the Fourth Industrial Revolution. That's the convergence of new technologies such as artificial intelligence and big data, bringing dramatic changes to our world.
It's a convergence across the digital, physical, biological worlds to create new neurotechnological capabilities and solutions.
But with as many new opportunities the Fourth Industrial Revolution offers, some of the leading minds that have gathered here in Dubai are also putting careful consideration into some of the dangers it poses as well. The World Economic Forum has published results of a survey on Sunday identifying new technologies that need better governance. They include AI, biotechnologies and blockchain.
Depending on the area, how those technologies are applied, we really need the different types of expertise, the technological expertise, but also the angle from the application in order to develop the governance and regulations that we need in order to reduce the risk of those technologies.
It's been a big year for AI, from the continued growth of self-driving cars to AlphaGo, the computer that beat Grandmaster Isadol in the game of Paduk, which had been thought to be unwinnable for a computer. But the speed of its development also has many concerned, and thought is now being put into how it needs to develop.
It's very important to discuss the potential risks of AI, and I hope that that discussion, in fact, leads to education of all technologists to ensure a human-centered process, a process that considers societal benefits.
Last year, the World Economic Forum brought the Fourth Industrial Revolution to the world's attention. Now they are highlighting the need to try and control, govern and shape the future rather than be led by it. Kwon Jang-oh, Arirang News, Dubai.
Okay, well, that's all we have for now on this Monday afternoon here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you as always for watching. If you want to catch up on all the latest news stories, you can find more on our website, arirang.com/news. We also have a smartphone application where you can watch Arirang TV live streaming through your phone and also catch up on all the news there as well. You can just search for Arirang TV in your usual smartphone shop place, and we'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. We do have news bulletins every 2 hours now on Arirang TV, so our next newscast is coming up at 2 p.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.